All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to be digging into the fossil record to uncover some of the most gigantic and, frankly, bizarre animals that have ever walked the Earth.
You know, think about the animals we see today. Horses, kangaroos, even beavers. They all seem pretty normal, right? But what if I told you that they're basically just the smaller, tamer descendants of their ancient ancestors? That our planet was once a land of absolute giants.
It's a pretty wild thought, isn't it? The idea that our entire world is, in a way, just a miniature version of a past that was so much grander, and yeah, probably a lot more terrifying. But this isn't science fiction. The truth is, the fossil record tells a story of a world that was bigger and a whole lot weirder than the one we know. And the most staggering part? We've barely scratched the surface of that story. See, the conditions for an animal to become a fossil are just incredibly rare. So rare, in fact, that it's estimated a mind-blowing 90% of all fossils are still out there, undiscovered. Just think about that. For every single amazing creature we know about, there could be 9 others still waiting in the dark. It just hints at a world we can barely even wrap our heads around. So let's kick off our journey with some of the absolute strangest animals ever pieced together from bone fragments, creatures that honestly look like they walked straight out of a myth.
Okay, so that's the best way to picture our first beast. And no, that's not a riddle, it was a real, living, breathing animal. Everybody meet the Chalicotherium. Now, it had the head of a horse, sure, but its body was something else entirely. Its front legs were super long and ended in these massive claws, which actually forced it to walk on its knuckles, just like a modern gorilla. And here's where it gets really interesting. You look at this thing, the knuckle walking, the giant claws, and you'd never guess, but its closest living relative is the horse. But while a horse walks on hooves and eats grass, this ancient cousin used those huge claws to pull down branches and munch on leaves. It was a true evolutionary oddball that vanished about 8,000 years ago.
You know you're in for a treat when Charles Darwin himself, the father of evolution, calls an animal one of the strangest things ever discovered. And he was talking about this next one, the Macrauchenia.
And you can totally see why he said that. I mean, get this. It had the body and long neck of a camel, but the face and nose of a tapir, with its nostrils way up high on its head. Genetically, its closest relatives are actually horses and rhinos. It was a real mishmash of different animals, and it probably went extinct because it just couldn't compete for food as the world changed around it.
All right, let's jump forward in time to a more familiar period, but one that was no less intimidating, the Ice Age. This was an era where it seems like evolution had just one rule: go big or go home.
So, take the kangaroo. The ones hopping around Australia today are pretty impressive animals. But now, meet Proctodon. This thing was double the size of a modern kangaroo. But what made it really weird was its face. It had this short, flat, almost bulldog-like snout. It was the largest kangaroo that ever lived, and it disappeared for good about 18,000 years ago.
Okay, for our next titan, I want you to do something for me. First, picture a beaver. Got it? Good. Now, imagine that beaver was the size of a black bear. And just to top it all off, it had teeth the size of bananas. Yeah, that was the giant beaver.
And the giants just keep on coming. A modern bison? Their horns average about 2 feet across. But the horns of the bison latifrons could reach a staggering 7 feet from tip to tip. I mean, you could literally park a small SUV between its horns. This was, without a doubt, the largest, heaviest bison in history.
Let's jump in our time machine again and go even further back, way before the Ice Age, to meet a creature that more than earned its nickname, the Terror Hog.
This is Daeodon. It was about the size of a car with this absolutely massive head that was completely out of proportion with the rest of its body. It was an omnivore, which means it ate pretty much whatever it wanted, and it absolutely lived up to that terrifying name.
But here's the kicker. Despite looking like a warthog from your worst nightmares, DNA analysis shows its closest living relative isn't a pig at all. It's the hippopotamus. It's just another case where the fossil record proves that looks can be seriously deceiving. Okay, for our final creature, we have to go to the deepest point in our journey, all the way back to the age of dinosaurs, to settle a very, very big debate and finally crown the true king of the land giants. For the longest time, the title of largest land animal ever was given to a dinosaur called Patagotitan, a true monster in its own right. But the fossil record is constantly being updated, and it turns out
recent research has revealed a new champion.
Yeah, science is always moving forward. And while Patagotitan was an absolutely massive 102 feet long, Argentinosaurus was even bigger, stretching up to 131 feet, so that makes Argentinosaurus, officially, the largest land animal to have ever lived, period.
And just to put that into perspective for you, a single Argentinosaurus weighed as much as 12 adult Tyrannosaurus rexes. 12! I mean, it was simply in a class all by itself.
So the big question is, where did they all go? These titans of land and ice, these bizarre beasts and terror hogs. Well, their disappearance actually tells a really important story about our planet and about our own place in it.
So if we look at the timeline for our Ice Age giants, the giant kangaroo, the giant beaver, the giant bison, they all vanished in a pretty short window between 18,000 and 10,000 years ago. So what happened? Well, it looks like a powerful 1-2 punch. First, rapid climate change at the end of the Ice Age, followed by the arrival of a brand new, super effective predator, humans. Scientists still debate the exact mix, but that combination proved absolutely fatal for the megafauna.
And that brings us right back to where we started. We've met some of the most unbelievable giants ever discovered, but remember, they represent just a tiny sliver of what's actually out there, which leaves you with one last, lingering question. What other, maybe even bigger, even stranger giants are still buried right beneath our feet,